Today, I'll tell you about possibly the most interesting series of the year, Hijack, and try to explain why we are being sold nostalgia for the past again. So, in the plot, viewers are shown the hijacking of a plane by a group of unknown people in which everything didn't go according to plan. They took control of the plane, but made quite a few mistakes that could ruin their plan. However, their main problem is the character of Sam, played by Idris Elba. And if you don't like this actor, it might be hard to watch the whole series. It's a classic confined space thriller, no escape, with classic villains, shooting loudly, threatening with weapons, a classic brave hero who will save everyone, and finally, classic bewildered officials. The main feature of Hijack is the constant tension and real-time action. This way, the series tries to replicate the incredible success of another film that came out 20 years ago, but it falls short of being perfect. If the 24-hour series with Kiefer Sutherland was groundbreaking for its time and people watched it holding their breath, Hijack only attempts to parody the previous story, as if it were a sort of Die Hard for people who are willing to believe anything. Some scenes seem clearly forced, while others lack realism entirely and quickly appear fake. Idris Elba portrays Idris Elba, not a new character. He doesn't act like someone who's on a hijacked plane with a dozen armed men. It's as if he was simply taking a walk in the park and had a chance to escape from it all. This is evident from the first scene to the last, where he first seems to understand what's happening around him, and then he dodges bullets. However, it's worth praising the cinematographers and directors who managed to extract tension for all this weak material. The creators skillfully use cliffhangers between episodes, and within them, they create a mosaic of various puzzles, conflicts between passengers, the team's attempts to change the situation, contradictions among the hijackers themselves, and the analysis of the incident from the ground through international efforts. All of this holds together an initially weak script, like superglue. Sometimes the writers are forced to stretch time with unclear beats of the plot just to fit the timing, because the action seems to happen in real time and the flight lasts only 7 hours.
Good morning, everyone. Flight time today is 6 hours 54 minutes, and we wish you a safe and pleasant flight.
Everybody down!
However, it's very hard to take all of this as reality. Besides the obvious plot gaps, there are a lot of problems with the characters' actual actions. Sometimes they can't say a word, while other times they calmly take risks and are ready to attack the thieves. But the biggest issue is Idris Elba's superhuman abilities, which can solve any problem even when it's not needed or can't actually affect anything. Apart from the main character, there are also many problems with the characters on the ground, specifically why they do and why there are so many of them. Okay, I can understand why there are air traffic controllers and accomplices of the plane hijackers in the series, but I'll never understand why the ex-girlfriend of the current husband of the main character's ex-wife is there. It even sounds complicated. In the old series, they had to add different characters for 20 episodes in a season, because their stories had time to be told, but it's hard to explain why there is such a crowd in a film where every second is valuable. During the viewing, it sometimes seemed that the intercepted flight unfolds too perfectly. The intrigue builds up, releases, builds up again, a bit more tension, a slightly longer wait until the tension is released. All that actions are planned and given away in advance. If you see someone with a tense face 5 times, they definitely aren't a traitor. And the one who looks suspicious from the very beginning will definitely reveal themselves in the end. If a girl doesn't like children, she'll die trying to save them. Just when everything becomes too much and you are ready to turn off and go for a walk to recover, the series switches to a domestic scene involving a boring family to which Sam inexplicably wants to return in one piece. Meanwhile, various government ministers on the ground are trying to decide whether to shoot down the plane over water or let it crash into building. And all the moral aspects of the story are condensed into 10 minutes of one episode. In post-production, they focused on pure adrenaline. No intricate spy plots, just a plane, a tense conflict between people locked in the same space, and Idris Elba. They should have stopped there, should have created more new material and expanded the story with passenger flashbacks. Talking about the motivations of the hijackers and other characters is pointless. The entire plot is structured as if hijacking the plane was a good idea and then no one knew what to do. Yes, Elba plays another version of Luther quite well. He even co-wrote this series, but that's not enough for 7 hours of viewing. Not a single moment, not a single drink packet. Not a single in-flight entertainment system is wasted. The seeds of the story are planted, allowed to grow, and harvested at the right moment. It works like a well-timed mechanism. We've seen all of this hundreds of times before, and once again, Apple TV is following a familiar path, not creating a unique product like last year's Divide. It's a calm story of a peaceful plane hijacking. Nowadays, it's hard to find something that goes beyond the 18+ rating, especially from services like Apple or Netflix. The only thing they managed was a brutal outbreak of violence by the plane's captain in the first episode, which stands out for its moral and physical ugliness, as well as for the fact that nothing else in the next 6.5 hours indicates that he is this kind of person. Unlike everything else in Hijack, this serves to move the plot forward, but unlike everything else in the series, it comes at the cost of taking you out of the moment. And that's something you can't afford to do too often when you are asking the audience to buy into the absurdity for 7-hour film. If the filmmakers could somehow salvage the footage, they should have cut out all of the things outside the plane, reduced the level of the protagonist's genius, and made a decent kidnapping film. But the motivation for this act should have been completely different. At the end of the series, I was genuinely glad, just like the passengers in real life are during each landing. But this time, it wasn't because of the excitement from the film, but because it was finally over, and I hope there will never be a second season.